Hello, welcome to the last video of this series around the Cardano transaction editor, the Cardano.el project. In this video, I will cover advanced topics like the interface to the Cardano Wallet service and how to use multi-signature scripts, how to spend out of them, and again, some utility functions around Plutus scripts. Cardano Wallet is a service provided by IOHK, and it is the backend for the Daedalus wallet. It's the service that interfaces between your Cardano node and the Daedalus frontend. You can run it as a standalone service in your computer and then configure the transaction editor to link to it. Your entry point is generally Cardano Wallet balances. This shows a buffer with all the wallets managed by the Cardano Wallet. As you see, I have a lot of them for test purposes, and I don't want to delete them to show you a clean system because Cardano Wallet scans the entire blockchain to follow all your addresses under management. So I will only start from here. Imagine this would be empty. As you have seen in previous demos, you can always use the command Cardano address gen recovery phrase to generate a seed phrase, and the way you load them into the wallet is you use the function Cardano Wallet create. You are going to name your wallet. Let's call this demo online. You select the place where your seed phrase file is, and now you have to enter a password to encrypt the keys. This is a nice feature. At least the Cardano Wallet service encrypts your keys on disk. It's not as good as having an air-gapped system, but it provides a lot more security depending on your passphrase compared to having all the key files as plain files on your machine. So let's hit enter, and we see at the bottom of the screen the reply that the system started generating my wallet demo online and status syncing. Now, if I go back to this view and refresh it, you'll find in the last row the wallet I just created. A nice feature of this view is if you would press enter, you'll find again the description of everything that goes on this wallet. You see it's still syncing. Other utility functions you have is, for example, I am going to use one of my test wallets, for example, the first one, Trees. If I press T, I open the transaction log. I get everything that has happened in my wallet. You can explore this log of every entry of the log by hitting enter, and you will see a detailed description of the transaction. You can, as with all other views, press A for an annotation. This, I would say, is deposit from testnet faucet. If I refresh this, that's an annotation, and when you press enter again, you will see at the top of the description how this your annotation as a reminder. Back at the balances view, the shortcut key L will list all the address under management for a given wallet. What you notice here, different from the previous videos, is that the watch column always says no. This means that this address, although they are watched by the Cardano Wallet service, they are not watched in our Cardano database from the transaction editor. You can, of course, always flag them to monitor this address with the letter W, as we did in previous videos. On the node column, there is a default information about the derivation path of this address, and the color red means this address has already received funds. It has been used. You will see after a while, if you scroll further down, some addresses with white nodes on their derivation path. This means this address have never been used. The most important function of your wallet is, of course, to spend its funds. If you press the letter S for spending, it will immediately open a transaction editor. Now, this transaction editor is not the one that goes over the Cardano CLI. This one uses the Cardano Wallet as its backend. And that poses a strong limitation on what you can do. Currently, you cannot send funds to smart contracts because you cannot include a datum on the output addresses. On the advantage, it is much easier to spend using the Cardano wallet, as it will do coin selection and it will take care of your change address. Thus, you only have to think about what are you going to spend. The procedure is the same. You first use Cardano address pick to select from all the addresses registered in your database. I will go for my multisig address and paste it, and I will send 80 ADA, so 80 million. I will copy this again, send to the same address, same amount, but now I will use the function Cardano Wallet TX asset pick, which allows me to load the assets, all the native tokens in this wallet. I will select these two assets, and then I paste this. Let's align them correctly. And that's it. This is a 2 output payment. Cardano Wallet will take care of discounting it from my balance. It will make sure I have the correct UTXOs for the assets I am sending, and that's all. Now with Ctrl+C, Ctrl+C, I have to unlock my wallet. I will paste my long password, and that is it. I receive the confirmation that I have a pending transaction. Where did it spend from? The address, the UTXO ID and index. As you see here, it spent from about 4 places and outputs to 1, 2, 3, 4 other places. And it balanced all the assets I wanted to send. And that is pretty much it. If I go back to the balances view, you also see that the total amount dropped. I would open the transaction log. This is my last transaction. It's still trying to get it on the blockchain, but it's registered in my log. After a while, the transaction gets included into the blockchain. As you can see, the last transaction has now a timestamp, which means we transfer the funds to the multisig address, which was our intention, and now it's an interesting thing to spend it. For that, I will use again the traditional transaction editor. The function Cardano-TX new is the one you use to launch the transaction editor. It takes a little while to load because it has to scan for all the UTXOs you have available in your addresses. Let's search for the multisig UTXO this time. Let's pick the 2 of 2. And let's just make a direct transfer again to the multisig address. Now, this is one input, one output transaction. I'm just doing a transfer. This UTXO only has Lovelaces. And because it is a script address, I need to specify the script file which describes the spending condition. Now, if you remember from our addresses, the multisig address I have, make this bigger, is a 2 of 2 multisig with the first key and the 00 key, or one of those keys and the time lock. The time lock says I can only spend with one key after the slot 50 million and something. If I verify the chain tip, I'm already after this slot 60 million and something. So it is possible to spend with one key. So let's do both of those things in 2 separate transactions. Let's go back to the transaction editor. Now, a multisig script is very similar to a minting policy. It's actually the same thing. So if you don't remember how to write the conditions, you can just go back to the mint template. You pick one of the keys you want. You delete all that corresponds to the minting policy. This is the key I want to use to sign the transaction, the 001. If I try to send this transaction with Ctrl+C, Ctrl+C, you'll notice it fails. And this is because the Cardano CLI does not include automatically the information of the validity interval. And it's not enough that the transaction matches the current slot. You have to always specify the validity interval. And this is a very bad thing on user interface design, but that's the way the Cardano CLI is that although your scripts use before and after for validity, the instructions are invalid before, invalid after. So the other way. And here I need the invalid before. The template gives you a slot number, which is 1 hour before the instant you launch the template, but you don't need that. I only need to be after the script requirement, which was 50 million something. So if I said invalid before the 60 million something, that is good enough. And if I press Ctrl+C, Ctrl+C, this transaction should work. And as you see at the bottom of the screen, the transaction was successfully submitted. Now let's spend again. Let's make a new transaction using 2 of the keys. Look for our multisig. Let's pick this time the other UTXO that even had a token, just a direct transfer to the multisig address. Now, as you might remember, the Cardano CLI does not balance tokens in the change address. So you need to specify one output that has them. And I have the transaction available balance to remind me how much I have available. Let's drop this to 10 Lovelaces so that the change takes the remaining 70 ADA, 70 million Lovelaces. And let's send this to another address, my first key with the demo key. That is it. And of course, if I try to send this, it fails because the editor has no idea with which keys to sign. I'll call again the mint template, pick the 00 key, write the first key. Now I don't need any information about the time lock because I have the 2 keys. Now I've pressed Ctrl+C, Ctrl+C, transaction successfully submitted. The last thing I want to show you is how to spend out of Plutus scripts. Let's call again the function cardano-tx-new. There is the script always succeeds, which is the one you start getting to know when you learn about smart contracts in Cardano. This script accepts any datum and any redeemer for it to be unlocked. Now there's a caveat. You cannot just decide to spend out of these UTXOs unless you know the datum under which they were locked. So as you see, I have a list of a lot of UTXOs that belong to the always succeed address, but I don't know their datum. I only know the datum for scripts I have created, because when you create an output that has a datum using the transaction editor, its database also records for you the datum so that you can claim afterwards money out of this UTXO. So let's pick that UTXO, let's send it to our first address, and let's make a direct transfer. Let's say the redeemer hello world. And now, even though you have all the information about the spending, if you try to spend, the transaction fails because we didn't put a collateral. For the collateral to work, we need to pick a UTXO we own. UTXO. We look for the ones of our first address, one that does not have native tokens. So the second one here is a valid one, as it only has ADA. And I need to justify that I am allowed to spend from this UTXO. So I need to give the witness for the collateral. It's the one under my first key. And now I can press Ctrl+C, Ctrl+C, and the transaction is successfully submitted. I hope you liked this showcase. Please subscribe to the channel to be notified when I publish new showcases of other things I'm working in the Cardano ecosystem.